Hello you, welcome to Geekism and welcome back to another Planet Zoo video. Today we're going to have a bit of a deep dive into climbing. A new developer journal dropped this morning and it's all about climbing animals, how they work and things we'll be able to do with them in the game. It was put together by principal programmer Richard Thorne and principal animator Felix Isley. There they are, looking awesome and happy. And they go into a bit of detail about the climbing mechanics in the game. The first thing is actually quite a big one and a bit leading, actually. Felix said that if you think of an animal and you picture it climbing, then we have it climbing in Planet Zoo. This is quite a big one because so far we've seen chimpanzees climb and that's it. We've also had a still image of the ring-tailed lemur who looks like he's climbing, sort of jumping from one post to another. And obviously both of those you would incredibly expect to climb. But actually quite a few animals climb and quite a lot of animals that you maybe wouldn't necessarily think of straight away to climb. But when you think about it, it probably does make sense. I've put together a little list here of a few animals that can climb, but we haven't seen them climb, and whether they do or not, I'm not sure. Bears can climb trees. They do it quite well as well, in fact. And the other main one, something like a sloth, sort of pretty much lives on trees, so that'd be interesting to see if we get something like that later on. The big one, though, for me personally, is big cats. Most big cats can climb, some more than others. Leopards and cheetahs spend a lot of time in trees, but actually lions and tigers can both hang around in trees as well. Lions often head up into trees when the grass is wet. They'll go and lie on a tree stump instead. So yeah, whether or not we'll see all of the big cats climb, I'm really not sure. Whether or not they keep the climbing mechanics more for sort of very agile climbing movements, so mostly things like monkeys and apes, we'll get to see. But it's interesting to see that we're definitely going to get it in more than a few animals, as Richard later says in the document here that our game has lots of climbing animals. Now, whether that just means you can have like 10 chimps running around, or it does mean that a good selection of the animals are able to climb. Again, it's a little bit vague, that one, but it's still quite exciting to see. The other thing I really wanted to point out here then is the idea that some of the scenery will be tagged as climbable and then can be placed and used to be climbed by creatures. So it isn't so much that every single piece of scenery we can throw down into a chimp enclosure and they'll suddenly know what to do with it. There's going to be a tag on some of the scenery that classes it as climbable, and then the chimps are going to have the AI programmed into those pieces to know how to run over them and jump to them. So in Planet Coaster currently we have tags set for items of scenery. For the most part they're just descriptive. You can set them yourself as well. So for instance you can make a tag list of all things that are gold, for instance, or you can make a tag list of all things that are made out of stone, or you can make a tag of all things that would fit in a pirate theme. So a lot of them are just sort of scenery based, but then there are a few other tags that actually change the way that the item is interacted with guests and other people. So there's animatronics. These are items that animate and move and often have a monthly running cost, as opposed to regular scenery that just costs to be placed down. There's also a tag that you can't actually see in the game, but some items have it, and that is that they are that they have collision with guests. So there are certain barriers in the game and sort of curb pieces, and also a couple of planters and stuff that I think have been left in as a bit of a grandfather from a previous design style that can be placed down and guests will walk around them. So there's different sort of tags that you can add onto items that mean that they interact differently with animals and guests. So obviously here the climbable tag being one of them. So I expect lots of different wooden planks, wooden poles, maybe some sort of stone structures and things. And obviously they've said that trees in the game are going to be climbable as well. So it's going to be exciting to be able to see which of those we can use and place them all together so that the actual chimps will, or other climbing animals will be affected by them. Richard later goes on to say that depending on what you've constructed, a climbing frame may simply be the only way to get food, water, or shelter. This is something I've touched on already, actually. I can definitely see people making sort of crazy chimp races, a long exhibit with a climbing frame all the way through over some water that's got food at the end, and you can race your chimps to get to it. I could totally see people doing that kind of thing. They've also said that climbing may also provide a way out of their habitat. You build a tree too close to a roof or a shelter, and they're going to get up there and they're going to get out, which I think is fantastic news, because that really means we're going to have to really consider how we build our shelters and sort of take into account space and how realistically real zoos will build spaces so that there are areas that the animals can't get to. Very excited to see that in the game. And the last thing I wanted to point out worries me a little bit, if I'm honest with you. It's again from Richard, who says that the next step in the feature's development is to set the right number of limitations to making climbing frames, so you can still build to your heart's desire without losing the authenticity of the Planet Zoo world. That suggests to me that in the same way that in Planet Coaster you can set built pieces to be together in a scenery group or a building group, there is going to be a limitation on how many pieces can go together to make a climbing frame. Again, probably for a research management point of view, probably from a sort of gameplay point of view, the game's going to be able to run if you have a 5,000 piece climbing frame that goes up to the sky in all different directions. The game's probably going to struggle to process that, because I imagine that the animals are going to have a sort of pathfinding bit of code that kind of runs through the pieces to figure out where they're going to get to before they start going. So if you suddenly have a piece with 5,000 different options, the permutations of that are going to be within the millions. So that kind of makes sense, although I do worry that it's going to make it a little bit limiting in what we can do. But again, we don't really like to talk in speculation here, so we'll wait to see what that actually means. They finally finish off with, I think, the moment when you see a ring-tailed lemur sitting on top of the thing you just built will be super cool. And frankly, Richard and Felix, I completely agree. I think it will be super cool as well. So really awesome to see that they're going in depth with this feature. Really awesome to see that they are really taking their time with it and making sure that it's going to be one of the key features for the zoo. I can't wait to get hold of some chimps, some lemurs, some whatever other animals we get that are going to climb and build some awesome realistic exhibits for them. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, you can give us a like. It really does help out the channel. And if you're not already, of course, keep it here on Geekism for loads of Planet Zoo footage and coverage. So don't forget to click subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to all of our patrons who make these videos possible through their incredible support at patreon.com/geekism. And I'll see you in the next one.